Alright, so for video 2 what we're going to do is we're going to play around with rotating these components about now that you've imported them. What I want you to do is try and lay them out in the manner that you imagine they might be inside your box. I know that's hard to visualize because you've all got different box designs. Some of you are going to have sort of flat rectangular boxes, others of you might be dealing with cylinders. Some of you, your speakers might be on either end of a cylinder, whereas some of you, the speakers might be on the front of your box, you know, as two eyes in a design or whatever. So we're just going to roughly orientate them with constraints, and then we're actually going to go and delete all the constraints. I know that sounds a bit odd, so I'm going to show you the tools on how to do this, but then how it's constrained is basically down to you. I want you to make it match your product. Alright, so follow my methods and then apply it to your product in the way that you imagine your battery, circuit board and speakers would be roughly positioned. The reason we're doing this is I want you to be able to get an idea of how much size you've got available inside your box and therefore how big it needs to be. Doing this will help prevent us making the box too large and too small. Alright, so it needs to start somewhere and you need to pick one component to be a frame of reference. And so that everything else is rotated compared to that component. So I would pick the battery box, and what I would do is right click on it over here in the browser and select grounded. You'll see a little pin symbol appears, at least it would do if my computer wasn't so slow. There we go. That now means that component is locked, can't move it. Everything else is still free to move around. Alright, and the only way to move that would be to right click and untick grounded, which we're not going to do. Okay, so ground one component. Right, I'm going to set mine up as though I'm making a sort of box design. So what I want is I want my circuit board side by side with my battery as close as I can get it. So I'm going to use the constrain tool. It's up here, or you can press C on your keyboard as a shortcut. You see it shows there, constrain C. So pick constrain, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mate. So using a mate constrain, this will join two faces that you select in red. It will mate them together. So I'm going to select this face. Now this is important. This is a face, a flat surface. This is an edge. Do not pick an edge. You're picking a face. All right, edge, face. So pick the face, and then pick the face you want it to be stuck to. So I'm going to pick the face of the battery, and you'll see what that's done. They're now joined. Now they are joined as though they're exactly touching. Now nothing's ever that accurate in real life, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to put in an offset of 1mm. You can see that's left they're aligned, or mated together, but with 1mm between them. Click apply. Alright, that's great. So that's now mated to my battery, but it's not the right way up. So my next constraint, I get the tool again, I'm going to make the bottom of my circuit at the same level as the bottom of the battery, so it spins around. So to do that I'm going to choose flush. Flush, rather than stick two faces together, makes them line up with each other side by side. So with flush selected, I'm going to pick the bottom and rotate my view round and pick the bottom of this. And can you see what that's done? It's spun it round so they're now flush. Right, I don't need an offset because I do want them both at the same height, so I'm going to click apply. Right, what we'll notice now is my circuit board can't move in and out, can't move up and down, but it can move side to side. So the way to stop that would be to put another constraint on. So I'm going to go constrain, I'm going to do flush this time, and I'm going to flush that with my battery. But what I'm going to do now is look at it from above. Alright, just rotating my view by holding down shift and the middle mouse button. I think it'd be nice if my circuit board was a bit further to the left. Alright. The two reasons, there's sort of wasted space here in my box, and I know that I've got to put the clip for the battery on here, which is going to make that bit thicker anyway. So before I click apply, I'm going to put an offset. I'm going to try 5. Now that shoved it 5mm the wrong way, so if I put -5, can you see what that's done? That's pulled it over to the left, -6, -7, -8. Alright, I'm just changing the numbers. So I reckon -10 will be about perfect. There we go. Alright, so where I'm already going to be wasting space due to the battery's clip, I've budged the circuit board into that area. Click apply. Right, now I've got my circuit and my battery. Because I've locked my circuit to my battery with 1, 2, 3 different constraints, they're over here, look, mate, flush, flush. it's three-dimensional, 3 different constraints in 3 different dimensions means that is now locked completely in place. Alright, so I've locked my circuit board down. I'm now going to position my speakers where I want them to. So I'm going to do constrain, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the bottom of my speaker here flush with the bottom of the battery box. Now obviously in my design, in my head, I'm not going to put my speaker right at the bottom. I just want it spun that way round. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a 10mm offset, and if we see that's not enough to clear the battery, so let's try 15. Let's have a look at that. That's very close. Alright, there's not going to be much room in there for wires, so let's try maybe 20. So I've stuck my speaker 20 above the floor of the battery. Okay, going to do the same for the other speaker. So flush that with the bottom of here, and we want to put in an offset of 20. Alright, so this is all about just sort of, it's like you're modelling at this stage, alright? You're just checking things out and going, right, is there enough clearance? You might be putting your speakers on the end. Alright, cool. So there we go. My speakers are constrained up and down, but they're still free to move around. And this is what I mean by rough positioning. I've got them the height I want them. I'm just now going to look at it from above and just sort of roughly put them where I want them for now. So, I don't know. Let's imagine I'm making that koala smiley face design. So my speakers are going to be some eyes. Alright, I need to leave room for a mouth. Maybe actually the LEDs would be good lighting up the mouth. So I want the LEDs under where the mouth would be. So I'm going to put the speakers like that. Alright, and maybe my switch might become the nose. So I'm just guessing here. This is my idea I'm making up. Yours will be completely different. So what I'm now going to do, I'm going to constrain my switch to the same height as the speakers. So this one's a bit different. On my design, my switch is going to be at the same level that the speakers glue into. Now we're going to use a mate for this. This little bit of the speaker is going to glue to the underside of your box. This bit will probably be on the top of the box. So I'm going to pick that mated to the underside of the switch. And as you can see, that's put the switch at the same height as the top of the speaker, so it would be on the outside of the box. Click apply. Alright, there we go. Front, drag my switch roughly into position. That's all good. Okay, I don't want you to really do any more than that. Now, if you want for practice, then do it the way I've shown you in the video. Your speaker jack, I probably wouldn't even worry about that for now. I'd probably actually delete it and we can add it in later, because all you've really got to do for that is put a hole somewhere in your box to feed it out of. It's more for decoration. But these 5 components here all have to fit in your box without touching each other. So now I've got a good starting point for building it. Alright, okay, I'm just going to show you how easy it would be if you were going to do a different design. Alright, so if I decided I was making a tube and my speakers were going to be on either end of a tube, then I wouldn't want them where they are now. So I'd need to pick my speaker, expand it over here. There's that flush constraint I put on. You've got to delete the old constraints before you can apply any new ones. Alright, here's the other one. Cool. And if they were going on the ends, I might decide I'm going to constrain my speaker by mating that to here. And I'd probably want a bit of room, maybe 10. I don't know. Cool. And then that one to this end. Maybe 10 away. You get the idea. If you wanted them on the same axis, there's a way to do that. So at the moment, these aren't aligned. If you go to constrain on a round object, you see this dotted axis line appears, that line that's going across there. So select any round bit with that and do the same on the other one with mate selected. And I don't know if you can see what that's done. That's put both round objects on the same axis. Right, so my speakers are now kind of tied together. And again, I could look at it from the side and kind of go, right, well that's about right. You know, I don't know where my switch is going to go. My switch, because I constrained it to this speaker, has followed it. Alright, so you might need to go in and delete the constraint on the switch now. And then you might want to decide, well, maybe I'm going to constrain my switch onto here and put it 20 above. Is there enough clearance? No, there's not. Let's try again. 25. Maybe a bit more, 30. Okay, so all I'm trying to do is get you to sort of lay out roughly how your components would look. They're not going to stay in these positions. That's why I've put the speakers very sort of fluid, if you like. When you've got them roughly there, we will have to delete some of these constraints later on to make things work. Alright, so anyway, that will do. When you've got them all in the rough position you want, I would recommend you, I know this sounds stupid, I recommend you do the following. Go and delete every constraint you made. So you'll need to expand each of your parts over here and find the mate and aligns and just delete them, okay? I know you're kind of wondering why you're doing that. The reason being is it's going to make your life easier later on, just trust me, alright? So make sure you've got rid of all of them, and that's fine, just save your work at that point. This is just a rough placement, alright? We're deleting the constraints basically because later on when we're going to make the panels and the lid and the sides of our box, we want to be able to move them to stick to those panels. If you've already constrained them to something else, they won't move. You'll get errors pop up. Alright, so that's why I got you to delete it. Okay, that's video 2. Hope that made some sense. Just roughly get them where you want them.